Hit the like button, share your thoughts, subscribe, and tap the bell icon. In a future where Earth has become a prominent part of the Galactic Coalition, humanity is slowly becoming more known across the galaxy for their resilience and ambition. Starships travel far and wide, and the borders between alien species are ever shifting. Humans, once considered a primitive species, now find themselves at the forefront of diplomacy and military conflicts. The story begins on a routine mining expedition, where human explorer Captain Aaron Cole and his crew are surveying an uncharted planetary system. While conducting scans on the planet, they receive an unexpected distress signal from a damaged alien craft. The signal is unclear, but the message is unmistakable. A young female alien, in dire need of rescue, pleads for help. Against the advice of his first officer, who believes it's a trap, Captain Cole decides to investigate. He leads a small team to the crash site on the lush, forest-covered moon orbiting a gas giant. There, they discover the wreckage of a sleek alien ship, its hull scarred from a fierce battle. Upon entering the ship, they find an alien girl, who appears to be in her late teens or early 20s. She's frail, weak, and clearly terrified, her eyes wide with fear, but there's a strength beneath her vulnerability. Her species, the Jaran, are known to be highly intelligent but also secretive and reclusive, and Cole has only ever heard rumors about their mysterious ways. The girl, despite her physical condition, insists that she is not the only one in the wreckage. She claims that her crew was killed in a brutal ambush by a rival faction, and that she barely escaped with her life. Her only request is for their help, but her words are odd and laced with an unusual form of alien politeness. "Please save me," she says, her voice trembling with desperation. But there's a subtle plea in her tone, something that stirs something in Aaron. As Aaron helps her from the wreckage, the girl, whose name is revealed to be Lasara, exhibits an unusual power. She can manipulate small objects with a gesture, and her alien technology is more advanced than anything humanity has encountered. Despite her fragility, there's a magnetic presence about her, one that Aaron cannot shake. The rescue is tense. A storm is closing in on the moon, making their exit all the more urgent. As they board the human ship, Lasara begins to open up, her language now flowing more comfortably as the distress wears off. She explains that she is part of a political faction of the Jaran that has been seeking peace in the galaxy. However, their enemies, the Vornak, a brutal and merciless alien race, destroyed her vessel and killed her comrades in an effort to stop her peace mission. Lasara's words weigh heavily on Aaron's mind. He begins to realize that this is no ordinary rescue mission. This is an intergalactic conflict, and his involvement could alter the course of history. But amidst the chaos and destruction, Lasara's gratitude toward him becomes more apparent. She seems drawn to Aaron not just because of his heroism, but because of something deeper. As the storm intensifies, Lasara collapses from exhaustion, and Aaron is forced to make a decision. Should he take her back to Earth, where she might be safe but where her enemies may find her? Or does he take her to a hidden Jaran base, risking his life and his crew's safety in the process? This moment sets the stage for a story that will challenge not only Aaron's moral compass, but also his deepest desires. He has already saved this strange girl's life, but is there more at stake than just her survival? Will he get drawn into her world, one that is so different from his own, but that might hold answers to the galaxy's greatest mysteries? The storm had begun to rage in full force as Captain Aaron Cole steered the Argonaut through the heavy winds, struggling to maintain stability in the harsh atmosphere of the moon. His mind, however, wasn't focused on the turbulent weather outside. Instead, his thoughts were consumed by the alien girl, Lasara, who lay unconscious in the medbay. Lasara had said little since their departure from the wreckage, exhausted from both the crash and the traumatic events she had endured. She had fallen into a deep sleep as soon as they left the planet's atmosphere, her body finally giving in to the strain. Her appearance, though undeniably beautiful, held an ethereal quality. Her pale green skin, the translucent, almost glowing veins beneath it, her silver-white hair that shimmered even in the dim light of the ship. But there was something else about her, something Aaron couldn't quite put his finger on. A magnetic aura surrounded her, something that made him feel both protective and strangely vulnerable at the same time. Aaron had just finished checking the ship's external systems when his first officer, Lieutenant Mara Gage, entered the control room. She gave him a sharp look, her gaze sharp and discerning. Her arms crossed tightly across her chest. "Captain, I need to talk to you," Mara said, her voice low and serious. Aaron turned, his brow furrowing as he leaned against the console. "Go ahead. I understand that you've made your decision to bring her aboard, but I think you're missing something," Mara continued, her tone clipped with concern. "We don't know what we're dealing with here. The Jaren are elusive, yes, but I've heard rumors. This situation could be a trap or worse, an attempt to manipulate us. We don't know if she's telling the truth." Aaron knew that Mara was right. His mind had already circled around the very same idea. The Jaren were known for their secrecy, their tendency to hold their cards close to their chest. Lasara had claimed her ship had been ambushed, but she had revealed little else. What if there was more to her story than she was letting on? "I know, Mara, but something doesn't feel right," Aaron confessed, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "She's not like the others we've encountered. There's something about her. And the way she acts. She's not asking for our help in a typical way. It's almost as if she's manipulating you?" Mara interjected, her eyebrows raised. Aaron didn't answer immediately. Part of him had considered that possibility. Lasara had been too calm in the face of everything that had happened. She was terrified at first, yes, but the more Aaron thought about it, the more he realized that her behavior had been almost calculated. She was too composed, too perfect for someone in her position. A survivor, yes, but also someone who seemed to hold more power than her appearance suggested. "She's not asking us to save her. She's asking us to join her," Aaron said slowly. "And I don't think she's afraid of us at all. If anything, she's trying to figure us out." Mara's eyes narrowed. "So, what's your plan?" "I don't know yet," Aaron admitted, sighing. "But I won't just abandon her. She's in our care now." Before Mara could respond, an alarm blared through the ship's halls, cutting the conversation short. It was a proximity alert. Something was rapidly closing in on them, and it wasn't a friendly signal. "Captain, you need to see this," Mara said, already moving toward the command deck. Aaron followed her, his pulse quickening as they reached the cockpit. On the screen, the dark, ominous shape of a Vornak warship appeared, its silhouette outlined against the backdrop of the swirling storm. The ship was massive, far larger than any human vessel, with sleek, angular designs that screamed intimidation. "They've found us," Mara muttered, her face pale. Aaron gritted his teeth. The Vornak were relentless, merciless, and known for destroying anything that stood in their way. If they were after Lasara, then they wouldn't hesitate to destroy the Argonaut and everything aboard it. "They must have tracked us from the wreckage," Aaron said, swiping his hand over the controls, trying to calculate the best course of action. "We need to move fast. Get everyone to their stations. We're not outrunning them in this storm, but we might be able to outsmart them." "Understood, Captain," Mara replied, her voice resolute as she moved to relay the orders. As the crew scrambled to prepare for the impending conflict, Aaron's mind raced. Lasara was still unconscious in the medbay. What if the Vornak were here because of her? What if they knew exactly where she was and were waiting to capture her? The reality of the situation settled in with a sickening clarity. Lasara was no helpless girl. She was a pawn in a game far larger than Aaron could have imagined. She had told him she was on a peace mission, but that could be a lie. The Vornak had no mercy for peacekeepers. Was she truly the victim, or had she simply been playing him from the beginning? The ship shook violently as another tremor reverberated through the hull. The Vornak were making their move. Aaron's grip tightened on the console. He had made a promise to protect Lasara, but now the stakes had grown far higher. He wasn't just fighting for her survival. He was fighting for his own life, his crew's lives, and the fate of the galaxy itself. He had to make a choice, and fast. Get Lasara to the safe room. "If we're going down together," Aaron said, his voice hard with resolve. Just as the crew began to brace for the inevitable assault, a soft voice echoed through the comms system. It was Lysara. Weak, but still very much alive. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "but you must trust me now. They are coming for you, but they will not stop with me." Eren froze. The truth was unfolding before him, and he was no longer sure who the real enemy was. The Vornak warship loomed large in the view screen, its deadly silhouette cutting through the storm clouds as it approached the Argonaut. The ship's weapon systems blinked ominously, its hull bristling with destructive force. Captain Eren Cole stood frozen for a moment, his mind racing as he tried to process everything that had happened. The situation had escalated far beyond what he'd imagined. Lysara had awakened just as the ship began to shake, and her voice echoed through the comm system like a haunting warning. "I'm sorry," she had whispered, weak but urgent, "but you must trust me now. They are coming for you, but they will not stop with me." His crew scrambled around him, working to maintain control over the ship systems, but Eren's mind was fixated on Lysara's words. She was no longer just the alien girl they had rescued. She was something far more dangerous. She knew more than she had let on, and now it was clear that whatever peace mission she claimed to be on was a facade. "Captain, we need to act." Mara Gage's voice cut through his thoughts. She stood by the control panel, her face tight with concentration. "We can't outrun them. We need a plan, and fast." Eren shook his head, his instincts flaring. "We're not running. We're not leaving her behind." "You don't understand, Captain," Mara pressed, her voice laced with urgency. "If we don't shake them now, we're dead. They will board us, and we'll be at their mercy." The gravity of the situation settled in. Eren had been so focused on Lysara and her cryptic words that he had failed to recognize the magnitude of the threat they faced. The Vornak were known for their savagery, their willingness to destroy anything in their path, and it was clear that their primary target was Lysara. But why? Before Eren could respond, the ship's comm system buzzed again. This time, it was Lysara's voice, faint but clear. "I know what you're thinking, Captain," she said, her voice strangely calm despite the chaos unfolding. "But I'm not your enemy. I promise you, I am not the threat here." Eren's hands tightened around the controls as he spoke into the mic. "Then why are they after you?" There was a long pause before Lysara responded, her voice trembling with a raw honesty that sent chills down Eren's spine. "They're not after me," she said softly. "They're after what I carry. And you have no idea what you've gotten involved in." Eren's stomach dropped. "What do you mean? What are you carrying?" The silence stretched, the tension in the air thickening as the Vornak ship's proximity alarm blared louder. The Argonaut rocked again as a missile exploded just behind them, tearing through the storm. The Vornak weren't wasting time. "They're not just trying to kill me." Lysara's voice cut through the din, raw with emotion. "They're trying to stop the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy from falling into the wrong hands." Eren's heart raced as he processed her words. Weapon? The idea was almost too much to comprehend. Was Lysara lying? Or was she telling the truth? His mind raced back to her calm demeanor, her enigmatic presence. Could it be possible that this frail, seemingly helpless girl was carrying something capable of shifting the balance of power in the galaxy? He swallowed hard and turned to his crew, his eyes locking with Mara's. "Get Lysara to the safe room. Now, seal off all the doors. We're not taking any chances." Mara nodded and moved quickly, barking orders to the crew. As she left the bridge, Eren couldn't shake the nagging feeling that they were making a grave mistake. Lysara had seemed so fragile, so innocent, but there was something about her that felt far more dangerous. She had to be hiding something. But what? Just as Eren began to question his every decision, the Vornak ship's comm system crackled to life. A deep, guttural voice echoed through the speakers, sending a shiver through his spine. "This is Captain Vornak of the Scourge. You are in violation of Vornak space. Surrender the Jaren girl immediately, and we will spare your lives." Eren's hands clenched around the control console, his jaw set in a grim line. The Vornak were offering nothing but a choice between death and destruction. There was no negotiating with them. "I'm afraid we can't do that," Eren said, his voice steady despite the rising tension in the air. "You'll have to get through us first." A chilling silence followed, But then the Vornak voice returned, cold and threatening. Then prepare to die. Suddenly, the Argonaut shuddered as another blast rocked the ship, sending alarms blaring through the corridors. The Vornak had fired their main cannons, and the ship was beginning to take damage. Aaron gritted his teeth and slammed his hand down on the console, rallying his crew. Helm, evasive maneuvers. Get us into the asteroid field now. The ship lurched as the engines roared to life, and the Argonaut veered toward the nearby asteroid belt. The rocky debris would provide some cover, but it would also be a dangerous gamble. They had only one shot at this. As the ship weaved through the asteroid field, Aaron's mind flashed back to Lysara's words. The weapon she carried. It had to be something powerful, something the Vornak were willing to risk everything to obtain. But why had they sent a single ship to track it down? And why was Lysara so calm, so resigned to the possibility of her own death? Aaron's thoughts were interrupted by a sudden crash from below. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the metal halls, followed by the unmistakable sound of boots hitting the floor. Mara! Aaron shouted into the comms, panic creeping into his voice. What's going on down there? There was no immediate response, and then the ship's internal alarm system blared to life. Boarding party, Mara's voice came through, strained but firm. We're under attack. They're here. A sense of dread washed over Aaron as the realization hit him. The Vornak weren't just after Lysara. They were after whatever she carried, and they would stop at nothing to get it. He glanced toward the medbay, where Lysara had been taken. He had to make a choice now. He could fight to protect his crew, or he could face the reality that Lysara might be the galaxy's most dangerous secret, and he had no idea what he had truly gotten involved in. The Argonaut shook again, this time from a direct hit as the Vornak boarding party made their move. The ship's systems flickered, the lights dimming momentarily as sparks flew from the control panels. Captain Aaron Cole slammed his fist down on the comms, trying to reach his crew. Mara! Status report, he barked, his heart hammering in his chest. There was a brief pause before her voice crackled through, strained but clear. Boarding parties are breaching the lower decks. We've got heavy resistance on Deck B, Captain. They're not here just for Lysara. They're after everything we've got. Aaron's mind raced. The Vornak weren't just raiding the ship for resources. They were after something specific, something they believed would give them an advantage over everyone in the galaxy. His thoughts snapped back to Lysara. She was the key to this madness, and the galaxy's most dangerous secret was now sitting in a hidden compartment on his ship. Get to the safe room and hold them off as long as you can, Aaron ordered. His voice steady but his nerves taut. I'm coming down to assist. Before Mara could reply, the bridge doors suddenly hissed open, and Aaron's breath caught in his throat. There, standing at the entrance, was Lysara. She looked different, strangely serene amidst the chaos, her pale green skin glowing faintly under the dim emergency lights. But there was something else about her now, something that made her seem even more untouchable, almost ethereal. It wasn't just her alien beauty. There was an air of power surrounding her. What are you doing here? Aaron asked, his voice tightening in concern. Lysara stepped forward, her gaze unwavering. I can help you, Captain, she said calmly, her voice steady as though she had prepared for this moment all along. But you must trust me. Aaron felt a chill run down his spine as she moved closer. He wasn't sure what he feared more, the Vornak outside or the woman standing before him. She had already proven to be more than just a helpless victim. Her earlier words echoed in his mind. They are after what I carry. Whatever that was, it was clear now that Lysara had known all along what was coming. She wasn't just a pawn. She was the catalyst. The ship shook again, and the lights flickered once more. This time, Aaron didn't hesitate. How do we stop them? He asked, his eyes narrowing. Lysara glanced behind her, a subtle shift in her expression, as though she could feel the mounting danger. We don't stop them, not by fighting them in space. She moved closer, lowering her voice to a whisper. But I can help you. Aaron's confusion deepened. How? Lysara stepped closer, so close that Aaron could feel the warmth radiating from her, despite the tension in the room. I carry a device inside me, Captain. It's not just a weapon, it's a key. The Vornak don't know its full power. But I do. Her words were chilling, and Aaron's heart skipped a beat. A key. To what? Your crew is in danger. The Vornak will stop at nothing to take me and this device, but I can help you escape. But you must make a choice. Aaron swallowed hard, the weight of her words sinking in. Escape? What do you mean? Lysara's eyes were steady, unwavering. I can activate the device. It will open a portal, one that will take us far beyond Vornak space. It will give us a chance to get away. But you will have to trust me completely. Aaron was torn. Portal? A way to escape the Vornak and their relentless pursuit? Sounded too easy, too simple, and yet it was the only option they had left. His mind flashed to his crew, to Mara and the others who were fighting to keep the Vornak at bay. Could he really risk abandoning them? Was it worth the gamble to trust this alien woman, who had already hidden so much from him? Lysara seemed to read his thoughts, her voice softening. I will not leave your people to die, Captain. You will have your crew. But the Vornak will follow us wherever we go unless you make the decision now. Aaron looked at her, his thoughts spinning. He couldn't just abandon his crew, his responsibility to them. But the Vornak were ruthless. His ship was already taking heavy damage, and every moment wasted brought them closer to being boarded. Lysara had to be their key to survival. But the real question was whether he could trust her, and whether they could survive the consequences of that trust. He stood tall, his voice firm. I'll trust you. For now. Lysara nodded, a faint smile playing at the edges of her lips. You will not regret this. Before Aaron could respond, a loud explosion shook the ship once more, followed by the unmistakable sound of the Vornak boarding parties tearing through the lower levels. The ship was under attack from all sides now. They didn't have much time. Captain, the safe room is under siege. We can't hold them off much longer. Mara's voice crackled over the comms, desperation tinged in her words. Aaron's pulse quickened. He turned to Lysara. Do it. Open the portal. Now. Lysara's eyes locked onto his, and for a moment, there was something almost otherworldly in her gaze. She placed a hand over her heart, and a soft hum filled the air. The faint green glow that had surrounded her now intensified, pulsing rhythmically as though it were connected to the very heartbeat of the ship itself. Aaron felt a strange, inexplicable pull toward her, a sense of connection that he couldn't understand. Then, with a soft, almost imperceptible whisper, Lysara spoke a word in her native tongue. The hum grew louder, and suddenly, the space around them began to warp. The air shimmered as though reality itself was bending. Without warning, a rift opened in front of them. A swirling, crackling portal that seemed to pulse with an ancient, otherworldly energy. Beyond it, Aaron could see only darkness, but there was a promise of safety, of escape. You must go now, Lysara urged, her voice strained but filled with determination. But just as Aaron took a step toward the portal, the door to the bridge slammed open with a deafening crash. A group of Vornak soldiers, their heavy armor glinting in the dim light, stormed in. They had arrived. The last line of defense was broken. Go, Lysara commanded, pushing Aaron toward the portal with a force that startled him. He hesitated, his gaze flickering between the Vornak and the glowing rift. The choice was simple: enter the unknown, or face the wrath of the Vornak. He glanced back at the soldiers, their weapons raised. There was no time to second-guess. With one final glance at Lysara, Aaron stepped into the portal, his heart pounding in his chest. The world around Captain Aaron Cole twisted and warped as he stepped into the portal, his body lurching forward with a dizzying rush of energy. For a moment, it felt as if the very fabric of reality was being pulled apart, his vision spinning between countless flashes of light and shadow. His stomach churned, and his instincts screamed at him to fight the sensation. But there was no time for hesitation. In an instant, the chaos of the Argonaut and the Vornak assault faded away. The swirling energy of the portal seemed to stretch infinitely, pulling him deeper into the unknown. Then, as abruptly as it had begun, the rush of motion stopped. Aaron's feet hit solid ground with a jolt, and he stumbled, taking in his surroundings. The first thing he noticed was the absence of the storm that had raged just moments ago. The air was cool but still almost unnaturally so. The faint glow of distant stars illuminated the landscape, but nothing was familiar. No planet, no ship, no recognizable horizon. He spun around, scanning the area. The portal was gone, replaced by a vast expanse of rocky terrain, stretching out in all directions. A few sparse, twisted trees dotted the landscape, their bark glowing faintly in the eerie light of the strange world. The ground beneath him was firm, and the air had a strange, almost metallic taste to it. But what was most unnerving was the silence. There were no sounds of ships, no engines or alarms, just the hum of the distant stars. He turned quickly to see Lysara standing beside him, looking remarkably calm despite the bizarre surroundings. Her silver-white hair shimmered in the dim light, and her pale green skin seemed to pulse with an inner energy. It was as if she belonged in this place. "We're here," she said softly, her voice laced with a sense of finality. Aaron's mind raced, his pulse quickening as he processed the situation. The Vornak were likely still hot on their trail. How long before they found the portal? How long before they tracked them to this place? "What is this place?" Aaron demanded, stepping forward to stand beside her. He scanned the horizon again, but nothing in sight seemed to offer any clue as to where they had ended up. Lysara glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "It's a sanctuary, a place beyond the reach of the Vornak." Aaron's skepticism flared. Beyond their reach? But how? Lysara turned to face him fully, her eyes locking with his. "Because this place is hidden, Captain. It exists outside of their empire's domain. They can't follow us here, not easily." The weight of her words hung in the air, but Aaron wasn't sure he believed her. The Vornak were relentless. They would stop at nothing to get what they wanted, especially if it was as valuable as the weapon Lysara carried. There was a deep, unsettling sense in the back of his mind that this sanctuary was nothing more than a temporary reprieve, a fragile moment of safety before the storm of destruction found them again. "How long do we have before they come?" Aaron asked, his voice low. Lysara looked away, her gaze distant as though she were contemplating something far beyond him. "I don't know. The Vornak are relentless, but their reach has limits. For now, we're safe." Aaron couldn't shake the feeling that Lysara wasn't telling him everything. He had placed his trust in her, but this strange, isolated world raised more questions than answers. And there was one thing that kept gnawing at him, the device inside her. The key. "You said the device you carry is a key," Aaron said, his voice tight with impatience. "A key to what?" "To this place." Lysara turned back to him, her expression grave. "No, not to this place. To something much larger. Something the Vornak have spent centuries trying to unlock." Aaron narrowed his eyes. "What are you talking about?" Lysara hesitated for a moment, then spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "The device I carry is an ancient artifact. A weapon, yes, but it is also the key to a vault. A vault that holds knowledge, technology, the likes of which the galaxy has never seen. It was created by a forgotten civilization, one that predated even the Vornak's rise to power." Aaron's mind reeled as she spoke. A vault? Knowledge that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. He could barely process the enormity of her words. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" Aaron demanded, his voice rising. "What is this place, then? If it's not a sanctuary, what exactly are we dealing with?" Lysara's gaze softened as she took a step toward him. "This is a place of refuge. Yes, but it is also a place of judgment. The vault can only be unlocked by someone who is worthy. Someone who understands the responsibility that comes with it." Aaron's heart skipped a beat. "Worthy? How does that work? And why me? Why did you bring me here?" Lysara's eyes held his for a long moment, and Aaron could almost see the weight of centuries in them, as if she were carrying an ancient burden. "I brought you here because you are the key, Captain," she said softly. "You and your crew." Aaron felt a chill seep into his bones. "What do you mean by that?" She stepped back, gazing out at the rocky landscape before them. "The vault is not just a weapon. It is a test. It can only be opened by those who possess the will to shape the future, to decide whether the galaxy will live or die. You and your crew have the power to decide that fate. The gravity of her words hit him like a physical blow. Aaron wasn't sure whether he was being dragged into a war that could destroy everything he cared about, or if he was being asked to wield a power that he could barely comprehend. But before he could respond, a loud, distant rumble echoed across the landscape. The ground trembled beneath their feet. Lysara's eyes snapped toward the horizon, her face tightening in concern. "They found us," she said, her voice low and tense. The Vornak. Aaron's heart sank. It had only been moments since they had entered this strange place, and yet already, the storm of war was closing in on them. There was no time to waste. He had no choice now but to follow Lysara into whatever path this journey would lead. "We need to find the vault," he said, his voice firm, despite the fear that was starting to claw at his chest. Lysara nodded. "You must understand, Captain. This isn't just about survival. It's about choosing the future of the galaxy." Aaron looked at her, the weight of her words settling in. Whatever this vault contained, whatever power it held, the fate of everything, his crew, the galaxy, and perhaps the universe itself, was about to be decided by the choices they made here. The rumble in the distance grew louder as the Vornak closed in. The ground trembled beneath Aaron's feet, the once still and serene landscape now feeling strangely alive with tension. The vault was close, but so were the Vornak. Time was running out. Lysara moved quickly, her body seemingly more attuned to the environment around her than Aaron's. She was already several steps ahead, her pace purposeful, almost instinctive. Aaron, still catching his breath from the sudden transition through the portal, forced himself to focus. His mind raced as he took in the landscape again. Barren, rocky terrain that seemed to stretch for miles in every direction. There was no clear path forward, only jagged outcroppings of stone that rose like dark spires against the glow of distant stars. "What's the plan?" Aaron called out to Lysara, his voice cutting through the thick silence that surrounded them. Lysara didn't look back, but her voice carried over her shoulder. "We need to reach the heart of this place, where the vault lies hidden. It is buried beneath the surface, sealed away for millennia. The Vornak cannot access it, but they are persistent. They will try." Aaron felt a knot tighten in his stomach. The idea of a weapon or technology that could change the galaxy, unlocking power so immense that even the Vornak couldn't control it, was both exhilarating and terrifying. But Lysara's words only added more weight to the choice he now had to make. If they succeeded in finding the vault, they would have power beyond imagination. But if they failed, or worse, if the Vornak got their hands on it, the consequences could be disastrous. The sounds of the Vornak's pursuit grew louder, and Aaron's eyes snapped to the horizon. He could just make out the silhouette of a large warship descending from the sky, a glimmer of metal flashing in the starlight as it moved into position above them. "We don't have much time," Aaron muttered under his breath. Lysara's pace didn't falter. "The vault is protected by a series of trials," she explained, her voice distant as if she were speaking to herself more than to him. "Only those with the heart to wield its power can open it. But be warned, Captain. The trials are not for the faint of heart." "Trials?" Aaron asked, catching up with her. "What do you mean?" Lysara paused for a moment, her gaze drifting to the horizon. "The vault is not just a place, it is a test. Those who seek to open it must prove they have the will to control its power, to understand its true purpose. Only the worthy may succeed." The idea of trials made Aaron uneasy. There were too many variables, too many unknowns. He wasn't sure he was prepared for this. His focus had always been on the immediate threats, survival, strategy, his crew. This was something else entirely. But he had no choice but to follow Lysara. The Vornak were coming, and they would stop at nothing to claim whatever power lay within the vault. They reached the base of a towering cliff, where the stones seemed to part, revealing an entrance that appeared as if it had been carved into the mountain itself. It was surrounded by intricate symbols, markings Aaron didn't recognize, and at the center of the archway was a circular indentation, almost like a lock waiting for a key. Lysara moved ahead and placed her palm against the stone, her fingers tracing the alien symbols. As she did, the markings began to glow, faint at first, then growing brighter until the entire entrance was bathed in an eerie light. The ground beneath Aaron's feet vibrated with energy, and he could feel the tension in the air, like the entire place was waking up after centuries of slumber. "Is this the vault?" Aaron asked, his voice filled with awe and trepidation. Lasara nodded, her expression unreadable. "It is, but the vault itself will not open until you prove you are worthy of it." Before Aaron could ask what that meant, the air around them shifted. The temperature dropped, and the ground beneath them cracked with a loud noise. A rumble filled the air, followed by an unnatural silence that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. Lasara stepped forward. "The first trial is upon us. Be ready, Captain. You will face your greatest fears here." Aaron's blood ran cold as the shadows around them seemed to deepen, stretching unnaturally, creeping in from all sides. His breath hitched as his surroundings began to shift, morphing into something darker, more oppressive. The light from the vault's entrance flickered, casting strange and disturbing shapes across the land. Suddenly, the ground beneath him gave way, and Aaron fell. The sensation was like being pulled into a deep abyss, his body plummeting through darkness with no end in sight. The fall seemed endless, a twisting, spiraling descent that left him disoriented, his stomach lurching as if he had no control over his own movements. He finally landed with a jarring thud, the impact knocking the breath from his lungs. For a moment, everything was still. Aaron gasped for air, his pulse racing. As his vision cleared, he found himself standing in the middle of a vast, empty room. The walls were slick with condensation, and the air was thick with a cold mist that seemed to cling to his skin. It was silent, but the weight of the space pressed in on him like something alive, watching. "You are alone now, Captain," a voice echoed from the shadows. It was deep, guttural, and strangely familiar. "What will you do when faced with your deepest fear?" Aaron's heart pounded as the voice continued, growing louder, more insistent. "Will you let your crew die? Will you abandon them? Will you choose power over those who have fought beside you?" Aaron's mind flashed to the Argonaut, to his crew, to Mara, who had stayed behind to fight the Vornak. His breath caught in his throat. He had been so focused on the immediate dangers, on finding a way out, that he had almost forgotten why he was here in the first place. He was a captain. He had a responsibility to his crew, to the people who had trusted him with their lives. "No," he muttered to himself, fists clenching. "I won't abandon them." The voice laughed, a deep, rumbling sound that reverberated through the chamber. "You say that now," the voice sneered. "But what if you had the chance to save them? What if the power of the vault could give you everything you ever wanted? Power to destroy your enemies, to end the Vornak's reign once and for all. Would you still choose them over the power that could reshape the galaxy?" The question hit him like a punch to the gut. The vault offered a way to end the Vornak, to crush them underfoot. It offered the possibility of control, of rewriting the fate of the galaxy. Could he truly deny that? He shook his head, his resolve hardening. "I won't let power destroy what I've built. I won't sacrifice my crew for ambition." The shadows around him seemed to recoil, the mist clearing as the voice fell silent. In its place, a soft, shimmering light began to form, a gentle glow that illuminated the dark room. The trial had passed. Aaron took a deep breath, the weight of his decision settling into his bones. The path forward wasn't going to be easy, but he had made his choice. The vault's door was just ahead, and the trials had only just begun. The soft, shimmering light from the vault's interior flickered as Aaron stepped forward. The first trial was over, but the weight of what had just happened hung heavily over him. He had made a choice, one that, for now, had saved his crew and kept his integrity intact. But the questions that echoed in his mind still gnawed at him. What kind of power was the vault hiding? Could he really continue to deny its promise of strength and control? Was he truly worthy to wield it? But the soft glow of the vault's door beckoned him forward, and he had no time to dwell on his doubts. The Vornak were coming. The distant rumblings from above signaled their arrival, and if they breached the vault before he could, the galaxy's fate would hang in the balance. The vault's entrance was now wide open, the walls of the chamber before him seeming to breathe with a life of their own. As Aaron walked deeper into the heart of the structure, the atmosphere grew thicker, charged with a strange energy that hummed in the air. It was as if the very ground beneath his feet was alive, aware of his presence. Lysara moved silently beside him, her expression unreadable, her pale green skin almost blending into the faint glow around them. Her eyes remained fixed on the chamber ahead, where a massive, translucent dome hovered in the center of the room. Inside the dome, Aaron could just make out a figure, humanoid, though its features were obscured by the shimmering light. "This is it," Lysara whispered, almost reverently. "The core of the vault. The final trial awaits." Aaron's breath hitched as he approached the dome. The figure inside seemed to stir as he drew closer, its form shifting and becoming clearer. It was humanoid, with an otherworldly grace, its features unrecognizable yet deeply familiar. Something about it felt ancient, timeless. And then, as he stepped closer, it spoke. "Captain Aaron Cole, you have passed the first trial." The figure's voice rang out, both soft and powerful, reverberating through the chamber. "But the next test will be far more difficult. It is not enough to simply reject power. You must prove your willingness to sacrifice everything for the greater good." Aaron's heart pounded in his chest. "What does that mean?" he demanded. "What do you want from me?" The figure in the dome remained silent for a moment, as if considering his words. Then, it extended one hand, and the dome dissolved, revealing a series of glowing platforms that floated above the ground. The light in the chamber grew brighter, more intense, and Aaron felt the weight of its presence pushing against him. Lysara stepped forward, her voice low but urgent. "You must understand, Captain. This test is not just about you. It is about the future of the galaxy. You must choose whether you will wield the power of the vault to reshape the galaxy, or whether you will abandon that power to preserve balance." Aaron's mind raced. The figure inside the dome had spoken of sacrifice, but what could he possibly sacrifice? His crew? His life? What was the cost of this final trial? And more importantly, what did the vault truly offer? He glanced over at Lysara, searching for some kind of reassurance, but she remained as distant as ever. "You've seen the power of the Vornak," Lysara continued, her voice laced with urgency. "The galaxy cannot survive another war. This vault, this power, it could end the Vornak's reign for good. You could shape the galaxy into something better. But only if you're willing to sacrifice your desires for the greater good." Aaron's thoughts swirled, torn between the heavy burden of responsibility and the temptation of the power before him. The Vornak had already destroyed so much. His home, his family, his friends, and in that moment, he wondered what it would feel like to wield the power to take it all back. To erase the Vornak from existence. To right all the wrongs. But then his mind turned to Mara, to his crew, the people who had stood by him through thick and thin. What would it cost them if he chose this power? If he let his ambition blind him to the cost of such control? The figure within the dome spoke again, its voice softer now. "The power of the vault is not just a weapon. It is a tool for creation or destruction. But even the smallest choice will ripple across time, shaping the future of all that exists. The question is not what you can do, Captain. The question is what you are willing to give up to make your choice." Aaron's chest tightened. It wasn't about the vault. It wasn't about the galaxy. It was about him, about the choices he made and the consequences they would have for everyone he loved. His crew, Lysara, everyone. He had already lost so much. He had already seen the damage ambition could do. He had to decide whether he would be a force for good or for destruction. And in that moment he understood. The vault wasn't testing his strength. It wasn't testing his resolve. It was testing his heart. His ability to let go of the very things he had fought so hard to protect. To accept that some things were worth more than power. "I choose the people I fight for," Aaron said quietly, his voice steady. "I choose to protect them. I choose to leave the power of the vault behind." The figure inside the dome seemed to smile, its eyes glowing with a soft, knowing light. "So be it." The power of the vault will remain sealed, and your choice will be honored. The energy in the room shifted once more. The ground beneath Aaron's feet hummed as the platforms began to fade, dissolving into the air. The light from the chamber softened, and for the first time since his arrival, he felt the tension of the vault's trials begin to lift. He had made his choice, and as he turned to leave the chamber, Lysara at his side, he felt the weight of the galaxy's future no longer press so heavily on his shoulders. Whatever came next, he had chosen the path of sacrifice, and in doing so, he had chosen to protect the very thing that made life worth fighting for. Behind them, the vault's door slowly closed, its secrets locked away once more, and in that silence, a new dawn began. The end. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stellar HFY content. Ring that bell to stay updated, and we'll see you next time.